Good day, everyone, and welcome to Ferg TV. I was working on this week's video when something occurred to me. I was watching someone the other night who we've watched for years, and both Sue and I both like the folks. And I'm going to say another thing. I'm not mentioning anybody's name because it's all positive, but I'm still not. They're one of the reasons that we got into HDT lifestyle. They didn't have anything to do with us pushing us in that direction, but they're one of the first people that we saw on videos and started to look into it. So what I heard from him the other night was a little disturbing. And again, it wasn't done intentionally, but I'd like to clear the air on this. And I don't usually do this kind of stuff. You notice I have my MORryde shirt on. I wanted to seem like I knew what the heck I was talking about. I kind of do, because I'm getting ahead of myself. What was given out for information on how to grease your wheel bearings and how to grease the torque bracket on your MORryde I S was incorrect. And I've seen firsthand what happens if you have a bearing failure. I don't know why that bearing failure happened. And if you want to know a little bit about the background on that story, please go and watch my other video on MORryde independent suspension when we had it installed. And that's going to be at the end of this. You'll have a link there where you can go and click on it. And it gets into more detail about that. But I've seen what happens when a bearing essentially freezes on the shaft, and then it cuts it off is what it does, and you lose everything. So I didn't want that to happen to anybody, and I know that the guy that said that wouldn't want it to happen to anybody. He's passing along information that he believes to be true, but he did not get it from the source, which is MORryde. He got it from someone else who he trusts and believes is giving him the right information. The only reason I'm coming out about this and making a video, and it's going to be a short one, is because we just had IS put on. We took the time to take the tour, and I'm going to put a clip in here from Gary, who did the tour, who's been at MORryde for 27 years. He kind of knows what he's talking about. And what's at issue is how to grease your bearings and when to grease your bearings. Your bearings should be packed, washed, inspected, and repacked once a year or once every 12 to 15,000 miles, according to their literature, but Gary says once a year or every 12,000 miles. So this thing about pumping grease into a Zerk fitting at the end of the spindle is not only a bad idea, it's a terrible idea. And they no longer put the Zerks in. So if you have an IS that has a Zerk, it's an older one. And there is a reason why they got rid of it, because they don't want you pumping into it, okay? But the spindles were supplied by Dexter axles. And Dexter was putting those in because they had the, what do they call them, Easy Lube hubs or something. It's not the thing to do. What you're doing is you're pushing good grease into dirty grease, and you don't want to blow the seal out. And it takes a lot of grease to fill up the inside of that hub, right? So the other thing is, if you're only putting 3 or 4 pumps into it, you're not really doing anything for the rear bearing. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to play the videos. I'm going to let you watch it. You make your decision. I took out my manual that we got, and I've scanned the one pertinent page that tells you when to do it and how to do it. And Gary, I'm going to let Gary do the rest because he's the guy that really knows what he's talking about. I just kind of know.
Yeah, well, bottom line, the road sucks. Yeah. And this is going to help, quite frankly.
It looks like we have some grease accessibility here, some Zerk fittings.
Yep, you've got 4 greasers on a 2-axle trailer, one at each wheel.
Okay.
That is lubricating the inside of this tube. Inside that tube, you've got the journal bar. That's your pivot point. The journal bar is solid, round steel. Now, inside the torque bracket, you have what we call Rexnoid bushings. It's a fiber bushing that goes in there because you don't want to rub steel against steel. Even if you're lubricating, you don't want steel against steel like that. So we put the Rexnoid bushings in there. So there's a dual purpose for greasing this. One is to lubricate.
Mm-hmm.
The other is to keep the steel from rusting on that journal bar because that is not sealed. Moisture does leak in there. If you did not keep that greased up, that steel bar would rust. Now, it would take your lifetime and probably 3 others before it rusts through, before it would be dangerous. But when it dries out, that rust starts crusting off, and it's just like sandpaper when it gets into those fiber bushings.
Yeah.
So we recommend at least twice a year shooting grease in there. How much grease do you put in there? Until it oozes out.
Where is it going to ooze out?
It will ooze out either right in here or right back here.
All right.
There's the journal bar that goes through that. As I said, that is just solid steel. The spindle itself, we buy those from Dexter. Then they're pressed into the beam itself. And incidentally, that beam is also solid steel.
Are they pressed in, then welded on the back
Pressed
side?
and then welded. Both front and back. So, what does that mean? Well, if my bearings go out and I scar up that spindle, guess what?
Yeah, you got to get this
You're going to change
whole.
the whole beam assembly. So, that means you want to take very, very good care of your spindle. That means checking your bearings. That means greasing or repacking your bearings on an annual basis. The recommendation is once a year, every 12,000 miles. Now that is a royal pain, and it's not inexpensive. It runs probably right around $350 if you have somebody do it, somewhere in that neighborhood. But if a bearing seizes up on you, they will get hot enough that they'll literally weld themselves to the spindle. Once that happens, if you don't notice it, you'll keep going down the road, and eventually the whole hub, rotor, rim, tire, possibly the calipers, not possibly, it'll take the calipers out as well, and maybe the outside of your trailer. And hopefully nobody's behind you, because it'll shoot it out of that trailer like a cannon. So how do I maintenance it? Well, once a year, I do the bearing pack, as I said. The other thing I'm going to do is every time I get out of the trailer at a rest area or a restaurant, anytime I stop, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back of my hand, I'm going to walk around to each wheel, put it up near that center hub. What I'm trying to feel is heat. And the reason I'm using the back of my hand is more sensitive to heat than the palm. And if I grab a hold of that, and I've got a bearing that's going out, I'm going to bring back a handful of blisters. Mm-hmm. So use that, or better yet, go to a place like Harbor Freight. You can get an infrared heat sensor.
And they're not
right around
expensive.
$20.
Yeah, they're cheap.
Yeah, they're really cheap and absolutely worth it. So do that on a regular basis, but absolutely do that. You'll also notice that we don't have the grease certs on the end of our spindles, what they call the easy loop.
Good is good.
Reason for that, well, y'all apparently know. Why do we not do that?
Well, I believe you don't do it because you're going to pump the dirty grease from the back bearing through the front bearing. Second of all, it takes a ton of dadgum grease to fill the hub up.
Well, the other
And
thing
then
is
the
you can
second time
blow your
blow
seal
back,
out.
back seal out, and then you have no brakes.
Yeah, because friction pads and grease don't play well together. So yes, you can blow out that rear seal. That grease has got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, just putting clean grease in is not going to push all the contaminants out.
And then you don't inspect the bearings, so.
Yep. That's
true.
exactly it.
That's important.
And many people do that instead of packing their bearings. No, not good, not good. If they're packed properly, you never have to put grease in there. Yeah, and if you're getting disc brakes with MORryde, we put the Temkins in. Good boys.
Cool.
There's your Rexnoid bushing. Got one on the front and one on the back.
Cool.
And then here's the slots, and there's your pivot point. And as you can see, this is very light. Oh, there is nothing light on the independent suspension system. It is heavy duty, but it's made to last.
Those are manufactured here?
It is manufactured here, yes. Yes. With MORryde, we try our best to keep everything in-house. You notice I said we try our best. Unfortunately, there are a very few items, probably about 10%, 5 to 10% of our stuff we do have to get out of China. We were forced into that by competition. They took one of our products and copied it rivet for rivet, literally rivet for rivet, and then they sent it over to China to be manufactured, and we can't compete with them over there. So we had no choice but to do the same thing. So again, we keep about 90% of our product made right here in Elkhart, Indiana. But a little bit of it, those nasty countries over there.
Well, I hope that was kind of eye-opening for you. I hope that you take something away from this as a positive, because this isn't meant to be a negative. I am not coming down on anybody. I like the other person, but I don't like bad information. Because if you're not a person that does his due diligence, like I do, it's something I'm proud of. I always look into things, and I always go, whenever I can, I go to the source to find out the answer. And I just hope that you walk away with a positive on this and you wash and pack your bearings. I'm still trying to get out my video for this week, because this is not the video for this week. I just felt strongly about it and wanted it to get out there, and I'm going to do my best to complete the other video. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you enjoyed any of this, maybe you'll subscribe. I'm hoping to push the channel ahead a little bit, and maybe you'll go give it the old up yours. Don't do it for me, do it for YouTube. They love that sort of thing. I'll see you on the next one.